All right, let's call the meeting to order for June 12th, 2018. Introductions of lead items. Do we have any lead items?
None.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
We'll move that. I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. Next item is the reading and approving of the May 22nd, 2018 regular council meeting. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any corrections?
One quick question.
Sure.
You commented that we've received 75,000 in asset management grants, but back here I'm only finding
I think we had
62.5.
applied for 75 and we got,
We received 50,000 from FCM and then 12,500 from the UBCM Asset Management Program, and then we have a matching portion of that. So, yeah, it's not quite.
Okay, but we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
about closer to 70,000 than 75,000.
Okay.
That was reported.
Okay.
any other questions? I'll call the
I just thought I was missing money.
question then. All in favor as presented? Carried. Petitions and delegations, we have none. Question from the public and press, we have none. I might as well go back to you as the note taker. All right, so unfinished business. The first one is the BCSBA's responsible dog ownership video that we asked staff to look at. Motion reads that council approve the BCSPCA's request to post the responsible dog ownership video on the Village of McBride website. Mover and a seconder.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion?
What did so the administration thought it was okay?
I thought it was a great, very comprehensive, basic video to promote.
Okay.
We have the utmost faith in you.
Call the question then. All in favor? Carried. Next one is the Rural Dividend Special Circumstances Fund Plan. Motion reads that council receive the report on the Rural Dividend Special Circumstances Fund Plan.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? So on page 13 on your agenda, Councillor Ruby.
While I'm actually for Superhost, I really am, I just want to make sure that we have buy-in from everybody before we allow 5,400 for it or 4,500.
Yeah, we actually, for the 4,500, that is a two-day program, so we can run the same program at different times, and it includes 18 individuals for each program. So if we only had enough individuals to run it once, we would do that and then use those funds, leverage those funds in another way.
But have we checked with the business community and make sure that we have buy-in for 18 people?
Karen has done some, but we want to make sure it was approved first by council. But she does have an interest,
okay.
right? So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but if we definitely will report back to council on the success of it or where that goes. But she does have, you know, and even actually I had a meeting with Heather at the museum and Jill, and they talked about wanting their people to be taking Superhost and their summer students too.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of, I think there is the interest in the community. Yeah, might not be 18, might not be 30, you know, 6 individuals, but I'm sure we'll run, you know, be successful with running at least one.
Okay.
One running. Unless council's heard otherwise, that we haven't been privy to.
I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
have the buy-in from the business community
Yeah.
because it has run before and really not been
That well
much
attended.
uptake.
Okay.
Yeah, so as
Yeah.
long as people are able to attend,
Mhm.
like it's set at a time that people are able to attend.
Exactly.
And
yes.
the people that need to be there, which honestly is everybody.
Mhm.
You know, everybody's an ambassador.
Exactly.
Or not,
Right
as the
from
case may
AG
be.
Foods to, exactly, so.
Yeah.
And the instructor is extremely flexible with his dates and times of when he would run the course for us.
Okay.
So, we're doing everything to try to ensure that success.
Councillor Thompson?
Just a quick question. If indeed the Superhost training only results in one session, is there a strategy to reallocate those funds through the other functions listed?
Yeah, we would probably reallocate those into banners, so we could buy additional banners for the new light posts.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Green?
Yeah, I was just looking at that pop-up display, $400, but in your summary of expenditures, you put in 300, so are we making up the 100 from somewhere else? Or
Oh,
is
I
there
think that was
typing?
just, it's $300.
Okay.
It's fine. That was probably the pricing we had in there on our last report, up above on the pop-up display that Karen had.
Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor of receiving the report? Carried. Motion reads that council approve the rural dividend special circumstances plan as presented in order to leverage the remaining funds of $12,400 for economic development purposes.
I'll move that.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Green?
I think a lot of work went into looking into these options, and I know that Karen did a lot of stakeholder consultation, and I think this is a really good utilization of the remaining funds.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Thompson?
Just a quick question on the gateway signs. Will the First Nations wording be on those signs? Or should it be?
This artist rendering does.
Yeah,
Not on this one.
on this one
I'm
here.
referring to page 16.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We weren't going to because actually the name, the First Nations name of the ancient forest is different than saying gateway to the ancient forest, so we didn't want to cause any cultural confusion there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different name.
And we really do only have license to the gateway of the ancient forest. Okay.
Exactly, that's our only official mark that we have
Okay.
approved,
That-
is that. Yeah.
That's understandable.
I really like the
Keeps it cleaner too.
one on page 18. I thought that's very
Very
striking.
attractive.
Councillor Green, you have your hand up?
Okay, so just two comments about the great gateway to the ancient forest. On page 16, I think that the green should be consistent with the green in the McBride train sign below, just for, it would be more cohesive visually, and it would draw the two signs. It wouldn't look like an add-on, it would look like it was part of the original design. That's just a comment. And then page 18, have we consulted with the First Nations to utilizing the Chuntowuchuch, however that's pronounced?
Yeah, Karen had gotten these proofs just at the last minute for my writing the report, but, so I would recommend that would not be in there. Yeah, because we don't have that as part of our official mark.
Okay.
So it would tie in with the gateway, to the ancient forest that's going to be at the pullouts, and would probably, before we would include that, there would definitely be consultation.
Okay,
Yes.
I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
Councillor Edwards?
I hear what you're saying. Would it not be a more sensitive way to ask whether they want it on or not, and go that way? Because then you know.
Yeah, I think it should be a consultation.
There's a
or-
consultation
Yeah.
that you could have, and then if they did want it on there, you could put it on, and you could be guided by that, because that way you don't have to, you're not
We're not making the final decision.
making a decision
Yeah,
on someone else's.
good advice.
And I would speak with BC Parks on that as well.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, call the question then. All in favor? Carried. So Counselor Thompson was the only one to write reports this week, so a motion to receive the reports for information.
I'll do that.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. And we'll move on to the invitation from BC Hydro to meet with senior managers at the UBCM convention. So motion reads to direct administration to respond to Mr. Yes?
I had a verbal report. I didn't get, I was still at
I'm
my
sorry.
last bioeconomic conference when by the due date for the report, so I didn't do one. I will have one for the next one. I just wanted to share a few quick notes about the conference that I attended.
Sure.
As my report. First of all, it was there was two parts to it. The first day was a community energy workshop, and the second 2 days were a bioeconomy conference and exhibition. And it was my first comment is that it was very different and energizing to spend 3 days looking into the future of our local communities and Canada's future with and the directions that the economy is likely to go, and making provision for it by preparing for a bioeconomy. So probably one of the interesting things that was especially the first day, and that she also keynoted the second day, was we heard from the mayor of a Swedish town called Vecchia, and the mayor told us how they got to their community's commitment to be fossil fuel free by 2030, and they're 2/3 of the way there now. And it was just very interesting hearing how they managed to get there from starting in the 70s. They started moving in that direction, and the mayor is facing an election in 90 days, and she's from the center-right party, and her assistant mayor is from the center-left party, and she said, only with regard to environmental issues, but from that point of view, it doesn't matter who wins the next election. That all parties have bought into their program of being fossil free by 2030. So that was where we started, and I will give you a much more complete report by next council. But that was sort of the first takeaway, was that it's possible to do it. And the second speaker there was Mayor Taylor Bachrach from Smithers, and they're rebuilding their airport, which was a 1960s era building and facility, and they're applying some more modern building techniques, and so they're making a better insulated envelope for the main building, and they're putting in a geothermal heating system. And so again, I was a little jealous of their motto. Their aspirational motto is that they want to be the quality of life leader in BC, and I was thinking, well, next to McBride, of course, but that's still an open question. But and then the Prince George contribution was that they're having a district heating plan. So they have 11 buildings in downtown Prince George that are all heated by heat developed by Lakeland Mills, and so they're using the tragedy that happened at Lakeland they seized on that as an opportunity. They're going to do a bunch of rebuilding anyway, and they were so they're planning on expanding that, of course. But that whole area of using the the forest residuals is what the rest of the conference was about, and I won't bore you with the rest of the details, but that was very inspiring to go and see that, so thank you for sending me.
Excellent, thank you. We look forward to your report. All right, so we'll move on to the invitation from BC Hydro to meet with senior staff at UBCM. Can I get a mover and a seconder on the motion?
I'll do that.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Thompson.
What would we like to talk to them about?
Electric gas stations.
Yeah, sorry.
Councillor Green?
Actually, you're probably not far off. What is the plan to put in these electric charging stations throughout the province? I think we've heard that there's locations that they've already identified. What sort of is their time frame? What are they looking towards moving forward? How does the municipalities get involved in that? And who pays the bill, the hydro bills? Then we still have our backup generator. We want to make sure that they understand we need to keep that backup generator, that it's been functioning quite well for us. And I don't know what our agreement is with them, but sometimes we make money and sometimes we pay the money. I'm not sure how that all works. And then with the IP projects, we have the East Twin and we have Castle and the one at Bell Mountain, or I guess it's not Bell Mountain, it's McIntosh. So, you know, what are the plans for any future projects, and, you know, find out how that's going to impact our area, our community. But those are just some suggestions.
I agree with all of that. My concern is that when we're down at UBCM, you guys know it's a madhouse of meetings and sessions and conferences and all just kinds of stuff. So I don't know if we want to meet with them at UBCM. I mean, I'll leave it to council's discretion, of course. Or do we want to just ask those questions and in writing through administration and save our meetings at UBCM for our top priorities. So I'll leave it to council to decide, because we do need to direct administration one way or another. Any other members of council have some input? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you for letting me back in after asking my question. I think there is something that we could actually discuss, and it has to do with the two-tier hydro system, where we in the north always get to tier 2 on about day 6 of our hydro bills, and in the lower mainland they don't know what tier 2 is because they never get there. And I know that there was some discussion at the political level to investigate the two-tiered hydro pricing system. And perhaps that's something we could ask BC Hydro and suggest that they look into revising or changing the tier 2 system so that it's geographical as opposed to being use-based. In other words, in the north, where you have no choice but to use electricity, we don't have gas, we don't have other forms of heat other than wood. The tiered system should be for those in the lower mainland and reducing for those in the north.
Okay. So your preference is then to meet at UBCM as opposed to
I would
other?
suggest that if we have topics, and it appears that we have some topics, that we try to schedule a meeting in as best, depending on what other, I would say it would be worthwhile to ask for a meeting. If it ends up that we can't get it, then we can follow up with a letter.
Okay.
But if we don't get a spot, we won't have a chance.
True that. Councillor Edwards, Councillor Green, or Councillor Pretterby?
I agree that speed dating is wild and woolly, and fairly busy, but if we can possibly, the further we can stretch, the better we do, I think.
Okay. Councillor Edwards, is there any input?
No, I didn't have anything to say.
No. Okay, so then we've got direction and I think consensus around the table that we will arrange a meeting at UBCM with BC Hydro. And so I guess I got to call the question then. So we'll just put that, would you prefer that in, call the question, put it in a motion, or would you just have just direction after the motion?
Direction after the motion is good.
All right, any further discussion on that then? All in favor? Carried. And with direction to follow up on those 4 subject matters, charging stations, IPP, our biodiesel generators. Okay,
Somebody's cell phone, maybe?
It's out there.
I have no idea. Okay. The 2-tier hydro system. So those 4. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the next one. It's a letter from Jill Howard requesting support. Motion reads that the council support the Valley Museum and Archive funding application to the New Horizons for Seniors program in the amount of $25,000. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that?
I'll do that.
Thank you, Councillor Ruby. Seconder.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Thompson?
I'm guessing that this is a gazebo that's going to be proposed for the museum library site. And I'm just making sure that the zoning and the site coverage is not exceeded by outbuildings.
That is a good point.
So I guess, I support the application, providing it meets all zoning requirements.
Maybe you would wish to amend the motion to include that?
Sorry, I'm just thinking, I'm looking for, I think that the motion itself is clear. They're looking for support for the funding.
Yes.
I think that the making sure that it fits the zoning requirements is a different matter that would come up when the
Apply
building.
for a building permit.
But if they didn't have that in line or check that out prior to it, we could be supporting something that actually is contrary to the zoning. Correct?
I wouldn't say that it's contrary to the zoning, we just want to be sure that it falls within the building
uses.
permit guidelines as far as how many feet away from, but I would suggest maybe if you want to support it, but we will check that out, ensure that administration will confirm that before providing the support letter, that they're aware that this would have to fall within the building permit guidelines for the village.
Okay, so once again, approve the resolution and then direction for follow-up.
Okay.
Councillor Ruby?
Perhaps we need more information, because I assumed this was something in the library, not something
No,
outside.
it's in the building outside.
Building outside, okay.
Yeah.
And it says it's a storytelling gazebo, but it's people that tell the stories, not the gazebo.
Oh, I thought it was really high tech.
And it does make mention that outside an additional lot to build a gazebo would be perfect for storytelling, but that doesn't necessarily mean it meets all the zoning requirements. As I believe they're public development. Not too sure about the lots.
Yeah.
All right, so we can do a follow-up on the zoning issues
Mhm.
after the motion. Is that okay with council? Okay. I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? Carried. And ask administration to follow up with the, to check the zoning and whether or not they're reaching capacity. Because you're only allowed so much of your building lot to be used under public development, with the understanding that there's one lot and then the 2 lots on Fifth Avenue are also theirs, and that's what I understand, where they're gonna build them on one of the spare lots. Okay?
Okay, yep. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the Resource Breakfast Series to be held at the 2018 UBCM Convention. It's on page 29 in your agenda. The motion reads that council direct administration to register members of council who wish to attend the 5th Annual Resource Breakfast Series during the convention. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Now, discussion. Councillor Ruby.
I would suggest that the councillors that attended last year should re-attend just for continuity.
Okay. We're allowed to send 2. I read through it, so I know we're allowed to send 2. Councillor Crane?
Yeah, last year, I believe you went to each one of them, and then one counselor. I think I went, which one did I go to?
I went to mining.
I went to energy.
I went to forestry.
Okay. Here's kind of the twist. I did enjoy the forums, but I also missed sessions at UBCM, and I find the sessions at UBCM to be very valuable, so I would prefer actually to attend the sessions at UBCM during these periods of time. So I don't really need to go. If we send one of us to each of them, I think we're good. So,
Didn't miss anything.
pardon me?
So I didn't miss any sessions by going to breakfast.
I think there were some.
Early.
I think there were some early sessions that were on because I remember looking at them and they were conflicting.
Okay.
And I just wasn't able to go, and I really wanted to go to the UBCM sessions. So I
The
learned a
days
lot
are-
from those.
It's what day they fall on that determines whether they conflict.
Yeah, I mean, we can send for 2 and I can always back out, I suppose, once we get because we don't get the itineraries till the very last, week 4 type thing. So it's hard to say what's going to be on and what's not. Councillor Ruby?
I would suggest that if you don't really care, send the 3 that went the year before and we have representation.
Yeah.
I'm good
Divide
with
and
that.
conquer.
Yeah, and then that way, if there's sessions, then you and I can attend them, divide and conquer that way. Councillor Thompson?
I don't believe, and I stand corrected, that we have to send in names of who's attending at this point in time, but I think they're looking for numbers. So I think it might be appropriate at this time that we just reserve 2 seats for each of the sessions and work it out once we see the schedule arising.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it doesn't really state out.
I could always attend as a second person.
We could ship you to all of them.
With one of the counselors.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, sure.
It's a great idea.
All right, so we're agreed then. We will book 2 for each session, and being the CAO and then one of the counselors. Okay, I'll call the question, and all in favor? Carried. All right, so we have a lot going out for information, for information only. Get our files confused here. And can I get a motion to receive items 8B, A through K for information?
I'll move that.
Second?
Second it.
Discussion. I have concerns with the BC Bus North schedules. Has anybody looked at these schedules?
Yeah.
Yep.
They almost run backwards. It sounds like you get into Prince George late and you can't get out. And I did read, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which municipality it was. I read somebody's information somewhere where it was of concern to them as well. And I should have probably, what page am I on? Councillor Thompson, did you have your hand up?
I did throw my hand up.
Page
Just
54.
for information, I did go meet the bus on their inaugural flight or schedule, and I think we need to be aware that the schedule was put together to originate out of Prince George for starters, and that it is going to be an evolving or it's going to evolve as it moves forward. I know that there's, because it originates in Prince George, it does seem backwards, but I think we need to give BC Bus a little bit of chance to work through the kinks. Like they've already worked through. One of the kinks was that you couldn't pay for the bus other than going online, and that's now been resolved very quickly because now they carry Interac machines and you can pay for the bus on the bus. So there's things that are changing as they start to roll out the service. And I would urge us to encourage them to evolve and not jump all over them because we think their schedule is backwards. I think that as people start to use the service and we can offer some creative or some suggestions, because they are going to ask for feedback, that would be better than jumping on them right off the bat saying you got it all wrong. Because I think the government did a great job in getting a service up and running as quickly as they did. Let's embrace the service and help them move forward as they evolve. I'm just cautioning all the governments from across northern BC to say, nah, you got it wrong. And because, you know what, I think they got it right. They got a bus service running on the Monday after Greyhound evacuated the north. That's huge. So I'd like us to be calm at the moment and let them sort out some of the kinks that they're going to find out on their own without jumping on it.
In follow-up to that, I do agree, but I've already received concerns. So I think we need to just get some clarification because one around schedule, and then also to see if it works for our residents, because it just from what I understand, the people were saying that it's just too late. So I do agree, like they did get it up and running fairly quickly, but it isn't going to do us any good if it doesn't work for our residents, and that's my biggest concern, is it's not going to work for them. So any way that we deal with it, I think it's great. I just think, well, maybe we just need to keep an eye on it and see if council gets complaints from riders, and then bring that forward so that we can address them in a timely manner. Councillor Edwards?
I think it's entirely appropriate for us to make comments, but I echo Councillor Thompson's points that we need to be quite respectful and remain calm, because I don't want to go back to 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's not like BC. It's not like Greyhound was giving us great service and now we got crappy service because the bus starts in Prince George. Yeah. I mean, I just don't see it that way.
Fair enough. Okay. Anybody want to pull anything else out of the information to discuss? Okay. Call the question then. All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to outgoing. There is none. Bylaws, permits, and policies. On page 58 of your agenda package, a motion that council receive the report to council, general local government election bylaw 779.2018. Mover and seconder.
I'll do it.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And we'll have our discussion on the next motion, so I'll call the question. All in favor of receipt? Carried. And the motion that council approve that adding the mail-in ballot requirements and procedures to the general local election bylaw number 779.2018, and consider giving the bylaw the second and third reading with adoption at the June 26, 2008 regular council meeting. Mover and seconder, please. Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Thompson?
Through the chair to Sheila. Does the implementation of a mail-in ballot coincide with creating a voter list?
It actually, at the time that they send in their mail-in ballot, they actually they're permitted to register at that time. So instead of the individual standing in front of us and registering, the mail-in ballot allows them to register at that time. So there is no voters list in advance. If that answers your question.
I believe it does. So if I may, a follow-up question. What do you estimate the added work requirements or time requirements on staff?
Well, I think
With
we've
regard to
already,
the-
in preparing this, we've actually already done the work, and we actually know what procedures we need to set in place if someone wants to do a mail-in ballot. So we, we will publicize that there is a mail ballot voting opportunity. If someone contacts us, they'll contact us, let us know. We will mail out the package, the mail ballot voting package to them, and they will send it back. So I don't think we'll have a high volume of mail-in ballots. That's when it would be administratively, and create a lot of workload if we had a lot of them. I'm not too sure how many we would have because they have to meet certain criteria. They actually either have to have a disability, an illness or injury that affects their ability to vote, and/or a person who expects to be absent from the municipality on general voting day and at times of all advanced voting opportunities. And I think most people are most comfortable with coming to the polling station and vote versus doing a mail-in ballot. So there is some additional administration, but it wouldn't be, nothing that we couldn't manage. And if the thing is, we've already done the work. If it's not at this time for this election that we add it to our bylaw, it will probably be, the next election anyways, I would think, yeah.
And this is probably an answer that I don't know. So based on the fact that we don't know how many people are going to participate, we don't really know what the budget implication would be for this.
The budget implication is really just, clerical time, which we've already factored in some time already for the election in our budget for that type of wages and benefits, and then just the additional mailing costs of whoever contacts us that wants to mail a mail ballot registration package. So I would imagine it would be probably a couple dollars to send it out because it'll have, a number of documents attached to it.
Okay, thank you for those answers.
Okay,
You're welcome.
Councillor Green, you had your hand up?
How do you verify, do they need to notarize documents, or is there an expense to the person who's voting?
There's no expense. Just a sec, let me go back to my report.
When I go in to vote,
Yeah.
I need to provide documentation that I am who I am, and generally,
So what happens is they provide, there's a secrecy envelope that has no identifiable markings on it, which they return. And there's a certification envelope for completion, in which the secrecy envelope is placed. So the application for registration is, as an elector, is to be completed and returned. So it's basically, and the instructions, so there's no affidavit that needs to be signed. They don't have to get it notarized. And it's basically just, as on an honor system.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an honor system to it. And we just would have to be very careful that we track those mail-in ballots as to who they are, that no one comes in and votes twice.
Any further discussion? Call the question then, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. You didn't move either way, so.
What are we voting on?
On the adding of the mail-in ballot to the bylaw?
Okay, also bylaw second, third reading, as was
Yes.
read.
Yeah, we've got it all in the same motion.
Okay, okay.
All right, so we'll move on to new business. Motion that council approve the temporary street closure for Lonsdale and Main Streets from 1st to 2nd Avenues on July 12th, 2018, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for Josh's Places event, the best day of summer, contingent upon receipt of confirmation of adequate insurance coverage by the Evangelical Free Church.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Ruby?
Just like to note that we handed over confirmation of insurance, so that's been taken care of.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? I'll call the question then. All in favor? Carried. And then we have a report. I did get that one, okay. Sorry, the UBCM resolutions, which is on page 66 of your agenda package. So it highlights our two resolutions that we put forward to NCLGA that are moving on to UBCM. So can I get a motion to receive the submission package for information?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank
I
you.
also have a question.
Go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Why do we have a list of information-only items under 8B? And then under new business, isn't that the same thing? Couldn't we just in terms of our business and council?
Yeah, I think I wanted to highlight that. You do have reports that you want to bring forward, sometimes even under new business that is for information. It's different than this other section on receiving information, other information, just so that it didn't get lost in just this other section for information. Something that I felt that we needed to highlight for council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call the question then. All in favor? Carried. And 4. So on page 71 of your agenda package, the asset management plan. So the motion that council received the report.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second.
Second receipt.
Thank you. Discussion? None? All in favor? Carried. And the next one is the Spark BC Accessibility Grant. The motion that council received the report. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll move receipt.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, so I call the question then. All in favor of receipt? Carried. And the follow-up motion that council and staff host an event on the 2019 Access Awareness Day and apply for funding at that time.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that? Councillor Thompson?
Through the chair, thank you for looking into this, and I think it's a wise move to not do anything in this year since it's come and gone, but to make sure it's on the tickler file for next year, because I think it's a fun $500 to get.
Call the question then. All in favor? Carried. All right, so we'll move on to the Business Facade Improvement Program, application by Linda Fry Notary at 532 Main Street. Motion that council receive the report to council on the Business Facade Improvement Program application by Linda Fry.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Any discussion on receipt? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. And the follow-up motion is that council approve the application from Linda Fry Notary for facade improvements to 532 Main Street from the Village of McBride's Business Facade Improvement program for 50% of the allowable project cost, or $5,000, whichever is the minimum.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Thompson?
Just a question through the chair that maybe Linda could answer. Having heard that Linda's going to be retiring as a notary, what will the business be at that location?
I will still be using that office. So I'm going to be running a satellite office for the notary in our neighboring community, and I will be a commissioner also on his behalf here, so that this town will not lose service.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Green, you had a motion with your hand?
Yeah, I appreciate the increase of accessibility. One more property in this community that upgrading, so I'm all for that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
I'm going for a walk. I'm out of here.
So, Councillor Ruby declare as a general conflict of interest. So this is on page 87 of your agenda package. Motion that council receive the report to council business facade improvement program application Advantage Insurance at 433 Main Street.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on receipt? All in favor? Carried. And a follow-up motion that council approve Advantage Insurance application for facade improvements to 433 Main Street from the Village of McBride's Business Facade Improvement Program for 50% of the allowable project cost, or $5,000, whichever is the minimum. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll move.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And you want to make a note, Councillor Ruby returned at 7:47? We said no? No, just kidding.
Yes.
All right. Next item on the agenda is page 91, a motion that council receive the report to council BC Rural Dividend 5th Intake Project Development Application. Mover and a seconder. Thank you. Second.
I'll make that second.
Thank you. Any discussion on receipts? All in favor? Carried. And a motion that council support a grant application to the Rural Dividend 5th Intake Project Development Stream for the McBride Airport Charlie Lake Field Development Plan. A mover and a seconder.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Councillor Thompson?
Perhaps just a Reader's Digest version from the CAO. I noticed that there's a number of projects that were discussed and listed. And I know that we've had a number of things on the go. For example, the Village of McBride Cycling Network Plan. And I'm just curious as to how and why the Charlie Lake Field Development Plan has risen to the top over, for example, the Cycling Network Plan.
Okay, so the BC Air Access grant opportunity, the village hasn't taken advantage of it yet, and you actually have to have a shelf-ready project, and this would help prepare us to leverage additional funds to develop the airport. from different discussions that we've had and just looking through the economic development plan, it seemed that the airport came up a number of times under tourism and business development, and we've had a few, 2 different businesses contact us in the last while asking for, indicating that their business would expand if they could have the airport development increase. So looking at it from an economic development perspective, tourism perspective, and be able to have that weather station. The cycling network plan, also very important. There's other organizations that are developing, multi-use trails already. So it's basically some of the rationale.
Is our municipalities or local governments only allowed to submit one application?
Restrained.
Under this
Per
stream,
stream, okay.
yes.
So
So we can prioritize these as far as the next, the 6th BC rural dividend intake when that happens, probably next year, 2019.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Thompson?
Pretty much, I appreciate that answer. We just have a follow-up question and maybe a comment. The one thing that I'm hoping that we don't lose focus on is a connection, a cycling network connection between the village of McBride, under and over the Fraser Bridge, to the parks on the other side, so that we can access funds through the BC Bike grants to really connect our community to the growing opportunities on Tier Mountain. So that's kind of where I don't want us to lose focus on that, because that's been a focus of 2 of our rural dividend grants, and I really think that it's important that we keep a focus on following through with the direction that we started, which was to build the trails and connect them to the village.
Okay, yeah, because that's one of the things I was going to bring up at some point. If we're not applying for Bike BC, because I have put that forward to MOT, but I haven't received a response on it yet. And the connector trail, being able to apply for healthy community funding for having an active population, and also for the connector trail, down from the Dominion Creek trailhead down across the bridge, around, under, and into Coneman Park. So it was something that was mentioned in the beginning, that we needed a cycle network plan for that connector trail. So I'm kind of concerned whether that project can move ahead if we don't have a cycling network plan.
So from my perspective, just with my grant experience, I'm very aware of the BC Bike grant. To put together I would think a cycling network plan could probably be done for less than $10,000. So we can do that at any time as part of our own capital plan, as under our consulting, looking at our consulting. We don't have to have a grant just to move that ahead. We can move that ahead at any time to leverage the BC Bike grant, which would be probably less grant dollars than the BC Air Access grant. So thinking in terms of leveraging, $10,000 for a business development plan for your airport to leverage for larger grant amount versus us being able to, and there could be other ways we can access. Could be other grants that we can achieve or apply for in order to obtain that cycling network plan. Under, maybe we can investigate NDIT too. But anyways, just a thought there.
Yeah.
But I understand, and if the McBride Cycling Network path is the way to go, then we'll just adjust that application.
So if I could just follow, so what I'm hearing is we can have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
Okay.
we should be able to.
Okay. All right, that answers your question. Councillor Edwards?
It sounds like I may be speaking alone, but when I saw this list, I went through the similar process, except I'm wondering when we are going to move farther ahead on our affordable housing strategy. And I would think that this would be a good opportunity for that. And so it seems, I would personally like to see that move to the top of the agenda, because I think that our housing needs are more critical than improving the access by air to the village.
Okay. Councillor Green?
When we were at NCLGA talking to Northern Health, Councillor Ruby was given some contact information. Was it somebody in UNBC? They have done, their students as projects, have done studies for 2 other northern communities on housing, and from that, the reports they put together, the communities were able to use that to go to the government to look towards some money. And it didn't really cost the villages a significant amount of money, just accommodation and expenses, rather than paying professional fees or things like that. So I think that that's an opportunity we need to look at and pursue. Because I think that we would get better value for our money, plus we have these enthusiastic young people that are looking to get A's on their projects. And they're going to do a good job for us if we approach them and there's interest there.
Councillor Edwards?
Through the mayor, would the students be able to use the same money? Would we be able to use this same grant money for that?
I don't believe it would be an eligible cost.
No, but I think they would come with their own, sorry. I think they would come with their own money.
Students would?
Yeah, we have to get in touch with these people. I really agree with you, Mike. How seniors housing has been my cause of choice all along. However, I think we can have our cake and eat it too, with a side of ice cream, if we just follow the right paths. And I believe Sheila has it marked out, because I'm not sure we're quite ready for this one yet.
Yeah,
We have a hard time with that, don't we?
I had the same thought, but what brought it even more, and you'll hear this in my report, but one of the low-hanging fruit that the bioeconomy can lead to is district heating. And the discussion at the conference said that BC is lagging in developing district heating because biomass is competing with natural gas, and natural gas is cheap throughout the province. But that makes me think that there are individual places that don't have natural gas that would be good sites for district heating. And I was thinking, well, if we're trying to pursue a housing strategy, it seems to me that there's a possibility to include those 2 strands of a project to make a really interesting project that could save our citizens money and get us farther down the road towards being more fossil fuel free.
And as a follow-up, I did take the opportunity to speak with the principal of the high school. I had heard on CBC Radio one of the First Nations schools had partnered, and the students got credit, and they built basically like what we have in our case project for their elders. So I had asked him if there was an opportunity to do that, and he felt that there probably was. But having said that, conversation just occurred last week. The other thing I've been waiting for is for the work plan to go with our economic development plan, because the case project's included in it, and to start to take a look at that and see what we need to move that forward. So I'm I'm in agreement with all of the things that everyone has said, but I think we need to get something in for this round of rural dividend granting, and it is an opportunity, if we have that in play, to leverage it for improving the airport funding in the future and near future. So is there any other conversations or discussions on that? Okay, so then I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next one is on page 94 of your agenda package. And a motion that council receive the report to council on the BC Rural Dividend 5th intake of the single applicant application. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll move.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. The follow-up motion is that council approve an application to the BC Rural Dividend Grant Program for a tourism development strategy that supports the Village of McBride's Economic Development Action Plan and council's strategic goals. Mover and seconder.
I'll move it, because I think we have to discuss it.
Second.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Councillor Thompson.
Where to begin? I like the idea of the tourism asset mapping. I'm concerned about the terms rebranding, and the reason I don't want to come across as negative, but I just, we've done a lot of work and are continuing to do a lot of work with the Robson Valley region. We're now doing a lot of work towards Gateway to the Ancient Forest, and I'm worried about us losing that focus through a rebranding process, and that do we really need to do that at this time? I guess I just don't know the scope of the application that would be going forward. Maybe I just need more information.
Okay. Are you able to answer any of that?
I know it wasn't really a
Oh, all right.
question.
EDO isn't here, but I'm going to do the best I can. So I think some of what we've been hearing at the Destinations Development all-day workshop we were at, in meeting with RVR, and then a follow-up meeting with Daniel Allen, is some confusion over our identity when it comes to tourism. Because there's these overarching, like RVR is Mount Robson, there's Destinations BC, and it seems like there's a disconnect for McBride itself, for people to know who we are and what we have to offer. And I've heard that also at the museum, just some meetings there. So just in talking with our EDO, just this whole concept of wanting to, tourism development, again, it has come up several times in the whole Economic Development Action Plan, under a number of different areas. And it just seems if we're wanting to diversify our economy, tourism is an area that seems to be where we wanted to put some energy and strength, just from our Economic Development Action Plan. that maybe we needed to, doesn't mean we had to change anything, but explore, you know, our identity as, you know, with our tourism strengths for McBride. So that's where that has come from, to basically, you know, explore that. And is it something we need to consider? And this would be through all, you know, community consultation. It wouldn't be, you know, the village making those decisions or anything. So we thought tourism was maybe a strong contender for our single applicant application, because we do need to have a marketing strategy for the MRDT. And, you know, that was our other choice for the, you know, the 10,000 grant stream, but we didn't feel that there was, you know, that there was enough, 10,000 was enough funds to be able to do the marketing strategy for the MRDT. So we thought we could build on a number of objectives in the one application, and just in looking at what Rural Dividend has actually funded successfully for other communities.
Does that answer your...
I mean, the application deadline's the end of July. We'd have time. We can bring it back to council at the end of the month. And if you have another priority.
Any further discussion? Councillor Edwards?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with applying for this money for tourism, to develop tourism, but I too am leery of rebranding the village. I mean, the Town on Track are quite attractive signs, and so I think that we need to continue with those things. If those old ideas and slogans were looking tattered, it would be one thing, but I think those still seem pretty fresh. I remember hearing Miles Bruin talking about how attractive the Town on Track it seemed to him as he came into the area and then started seeing that, and he thought it was a very, very appropriate way to create an identity. And so I don't have any problem with the rest of it. It seems to me like a good program. But if rebranding means giving another shot at tourism, there's no problem. But I just worry that if you constantly stop and rebrand, that you never actually get anything done. And so I think we need to just take. I think that the brands we've chosen to in the other councils in the past, and us with the Gateway trademark, those things are perfectly adequate to get started with promoting the tourism. And I think we should just promote the tourism with the rest. I think just that one item is the one that is the only thing I have a quibble with.
We could actually just modify the first objective, take out the word rebranding, and so just basically it would be a strategy that identifies McBride's tourism strengths.
Any further comments or discussions from council? Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thanks for letting me come in again. I prefer that better to the rebranding phrase, and I think that that the application really needs to focus on some of that tourism destination product development and the tourism strategy. Because come the end of the day, what we really want this to do is to create employment. opportunities and small business opportunities. And that all of the rural dividend grants are really looking at economic impact, and that economic impact is really, how many jobs is it going to create coming into the day?
And I think if I could just add, I think maybe we chose the wrong word there. It was more like rebranding for just our tourism strengths, not like rebranding the village of McBride's Town on Track, but more rebranding of just related to tourism somehow and maybe that was a wrong word, rebranding. Yeah.
Did rebranding.
But it sounds like you're retracting that, so it's okay.
We're retracting that, exactly.
Just my own personal comments on this. I like the concept because I do think we're at the stage to look at destination product development and stuff like that. I just wish that when we had something like this, that where there's been an application made by staff, that the CEDC is available so that council can ask specific questions and rather than always sticking you on the hot seat. So that would be helpful moving forward.
We actually will be coming back to council because we have to come back with a budget yet.
Okay.
And our economic development officer will be back then.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. All right, the next one is on page 97, which is a motion that council will receive the report on the statement of financial information, the SOPI report. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that, please? I'll move. Thank you. Second? Thank you. Any discussions on receipt? All in favor? Carried. And a follow-up motion that council approve the schedule of employee remuneration, schedule of council remuneration, schedule of payments to suppliers, and schedule of the guarantee and indemnity agreements as part of the 2017 Statement of Financial Information. Mover and a seconder? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Next one is a motion that in accordance with section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and L, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purpose of preparing an annual report under section 98. Council move to a closed in-camera meeting. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And a motion that the open meeting be recessed at 8:13 in order to conduct the closed in-camera meeting. Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Half the room? Carried. And thank you everyone for coming out.
Thanks, Sherry. Where's the apple, please? Bring them on.